Hey guys, good afternoon. It's Charisse again from the Merrill Project. Today I am going over 5 ways to get free or inexpensive produce. So, the very first way is to grow it. Now I know it sounds expensive to grow a garden and everything, but you really don't need all the bells and whistles of a garden. You can grow it in your backyard, add some compost or some soil to it, which is actually fairly cheap by the amount of vegetables you get, water, and grow it. So we probably spent about $100 this past year building garden boxes and doing special compost and vermiculite and peat moss soil, and we've gotten a lot from our garden. But then again, last year, what we did get from our garden, the rest was damaged by hail. We actually got just as much or even more. And so buying all that expensive soil and everything for your garden, you're really not going to need if you take it. So the first way to get for your cheap produce is to grow it. Especially if you buy organic, you can grow it organically in your own garden, backyard, and that will save you a ton of money than the organic stuff at the store. The second step to get free produce is to ask. I know that sounds simple and a little bit scary, but if you see a tree in the neighborhood overflowing in Arizona, I know there's tons of lemons and citrus and orange trees and stuff. Here there's mulberry trees, there's apple trees, so if you see a tree in the neighborhood that's just overflowing with fruits, knock on the door and say, hey, are you gonna use those? And if not, then ask if you can pick some. Just be sure to bring your own bags. The chances are, for some reason that year, the owner of that tree either hasn't gotten around to it, or the owner is feeling bad that it's going to waste because they're not going to be able to get around to it this year. So they'll be glad that somebody else is taking the fruit off the tree for them. So that's a second way, is to just ask them for it, knock on the door and ask. The worst thing they're going to do is tell you no, and no big deal, right? The third way is, it's kind of similar, is to help a neighbor. So a lot of times people go out of town on vacation during the summer or in the fall, right when produce is coming off their garden or off the tree. And so just ask if they need help watering their garden or anything, and chances are they usually, when they come back from vacation, they don't want to deal with 20,000 pounds of zucchini. They'll just give it all to you and say, take whatever you want, type of thing. So ask a neighbor if they need help with their garden, or even if they just need help managing their garden, and they'll probably give you all your extra produce. The fourth way, it's called urban gleaning. I've also heard it as foraging. I don't really know the specific between the two, but there's lots of places, at least here in Nebraska, where there's mulberry bushes or mulberry trees everywhere. And if it's on public property or park and stuff and lands, you're able to go pick all those berries and all those fruit from the trees. Just bring your own bags and go to it. Another one is, if you see some businesses, they usually have some pretty, at least in Arizona, ornamental trees, and a lot of times they have orange trees. That's not private property, but if it's a big business community, you can go knock on the door, and chances are you picking the oranges isn't even any different than their gardener picking them, and they'll probably say yes. And then the fourth one, this one I actually never heard of before, and it's more for if you're down in Arizona. I need to do some research to see if they have any here in Nebraska. But what you want to go to is borderlandsfoodbank.com. I'll link up to it in my blog post. And what it is, it's a ton of produce that's coming from South Arizona, and they put it in a warehouse for super cheap. So you do a $3 donation, and you get a whole shopping cart full of fruits and veggies, whatever's in season at that time. So those are the 5 ways to get free or cheap or inexpensive produce. Next week, oh, and just a tip, at least here in Omaha, it's that time of the year where gardens are overflowing, and I am sick of zucchini and squash and everything I'm getting from the garden. So if you don't have time to plant a garden, but your friends did, just ask them if they have any extras. Feel free to hand them over, because they're probably sick of cutting stuff up, because I wouldn't care if I saw another zucchini in my life right about now. So those are some tips to get free produce. Next week we will be going over what to do with your extra produce other than just freezing it. A couple different ideas. Comment below if you have any questions, and I'll see you next week. Thanks.